My name is Rami, founder of Uniting the Cults. I'm here with Brian, founder of KAOS. And Brian and I have met a bunch of times before. This is going to be the first public meeting. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask him some questions to get him to start talking about chaos. All right. And so let's start with this question. All right. What is chaos?
Okay. Well, it's a new method for people to express their opinions. And it's I hate to say it's a new way of governing, but it's a new way of people participating in government, really. So we're not changing the government. We're not getting rid of our representatives and our governing system, but we'll be able to express to them what we want much more clearly. And
so, in a literal sense, it's not government at all because you're not connected with any governments.
That's right. Yes.
But in a conceptual way, it's governance.
Well, right now, the people that govern use social networks to help them define what the people want, and they're doing that right now. They're using these sources to inform them of what their populace wants, and it's a very muddy system. It's it's not clear. And so this allows for them to interpret us the way they see fit. And their interpretation of what we want is to me, wrong in a lot of circumstances. And so if we can get a clear message to our politicians about what it is that we as a majority want out of our society, then they can go ahead and do those things. And it's just a way to be able to get the message to them clearer. Right now, social media, somebody they see a tweet and they see that 50 people, 100 people like it, and they think that's significant, but that's not significant in our world of 7 billion people.
Okay, I'd like to ask. I would like to say something and ask a question to help the audience understand something. Okay, some obvious stuff is. Has something like this been done before? And what are those things? That's what alternatives are we trying to replace here? Why weren't those good enough and why do we need chaos? But the other small little thing I wanted to say real quick too is, in my understanding, based on our talks, it's not only the majorities that matter, the minorities matter too. Their issues matter. And just to say something, you're from Canada, I'm from the US. And I don't know that much about Canada, but I'm pretty sure it's very similar to the U.S. in the thing I'm trying to say, which is, we have a U.S. Constitution. Pretty sure you guys have something like that. England or British have something that's like that started back in the 1300s, the Magna Carta. And the purpose of that document, well, initially in the 1300s, it was to say, hey, yeah, it's fine. We have rules, but the king better follow them too.
Yeah.
The king shouldn't have rules for the populace and different rules for himself.
Yeah.
So Magna Carta is something basically we forced on him.
Yeah.
Or we would overthrow him, right? Which was, we need to have rules that apply to everyone. Rule of law.
Yeah.
And in this long road until we have today, we don't have a king anymore. We have a president. We have Congress, and the idea, and Congress is trying to do something almost close to a popular vote, like find out what the majority says, kind of thing. But the Constitution is, in a lot of ways, protected from that majority vote. So it's extremely hard to change the Constitution. You need what? In the U.S., it's 2/3 of the Senate, something like that. Where a lot of the other things and laws, smaller stuff, it's an easier majority vote.
Yeah.
And the part of the concept of the Constitution is to protect to protect minorities, but the extreme version of that is individuals from whatever the majority might want to do.
Yeah.
Them.
Well, let's start with that one right there. Let's talk about majorities here for just a second.
Sure.
Because it's a bit of a myth, this whole thing of tyranny of the majority.
Okay.
That's a myth.
Yes, you're right. I was worried about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tyranny of the majority is a term that was coined by people that were worried that when they first started talking about how we're going to run America with giving people the vote, their first concern was, what if most of the people in the country are poor? So, or poor or just, getting by or what have you. And then there's the ultra rich, right? So what they were worried about is that the poor, they have the majority vote. They could easily say, let's just take all the money from all the rich. Why can't we just take their money? We can if we want to. And so if the majority were to say that, they could go and just take the money from the rich, right? And distribute it amongst the poor. Now, they were very worried about this because the guys running the country are the rich. So they don't want the poor just coming along and saying, well, I'm going to take your money. And they would be in the majority if they were to say this. So that was a big fear when they first started coming up with the idea, the whole concept of the people will rule the country. So that was their biggest fear. So they put in all kinds of rules to make sure that they couldn't do this. This would be tyranny of the majority against the minority. And the minority is the rich.
Okay.
Right? So we're not talking about women's rights. We're not talking about black people's rights. They weren't thinking about any of those things.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
They coined this phrase. All right.
Okay.
The next thing I want to say is when blacks got the vote and when women got the chance to vote, and like all these big changes that happen in our society, or right now, lately, fairly recently, is gay marriage, right? They got the right to be able to be married. Those things were held back by these minorities from these minorities by the majority all along.
Okay.
Right? And none of these laws that they put in saved those people. What saved those people and gave them the rights that they have today is when the majority changed their mind. The majority decided that blacks should have the vote, and they got that in their head because blacks were protesting, right? And that changed people's minds. They started saying, "Why are we lesser people here? This is insane." And then the other people that had the power and the majority of people were thinking they're correct. Right.
And to connect the dots a little bit more, it's politicians that saw that a majority held a certain view. Yes. So then they sort of bend to the will of that majority.
Yeah. So this kind of comes to my point. What I want to do is, like, gay marriage is a prime example here. Gay marriage, I feel that when Obama first became president, he refused the whole concept of gay marriage and said he's not going there. And I believe that's because he felt personally that the majority was not behind the idea yet, right? And this is what I'm talking about here.
Or it was too risky in his first term, at least.
Yes. In his first term, when he first got elected, he rejected any idea of gay marriage going there at all. And that was because he didn't think the majority was ready for that yet. I would argue that the majority was ready. And he didn't have a good way to measure what the majority wanted, right?
Okay.
So if he could have had a better measuring tool, like the one I want to create here with KAOS, he would have had a better idea of how big of an idea, how much of the majority wanted gay marriage. So if he had that information, he probably would have enacted gay marriage in his first term.
Okay.
So that's 4 years. 4 years makes a big difference. In people's lives, in the world, everything. So we could have had gay marriage 4 years earlier. That would have made a difference to a lot of people. Now, the same thing could be said for a lot of other issues. I don't know what would be a good one to pull up here, but, I don't know, legalization of marijuana or any of the other big issues that we have, whether or not the president should have immunity, right? We should be able to get a good idea of what the public wants and how they feel about this as soon as we can, so that we can move forward as soon as we can and make the changes that we can earlier. So, women and black people may have had the vote earlier if we would have had a better measurement of public opinion. And gay rights, like I said, or, any of these big issues, right? So the better we can measure public opinion. So I'm here to say that they're wrong when they say the tyranny of the majority. The majority always, I'm not saying that they always have the right answer, but when there's a mistake made by the majority, there was no other way to fix that. So it was a mistake not to allow, gay marriage 50 years ago, let's say, right? But if the majority was not in favor of that yet, there was no way any politician or anybody else was going to make that happen. It's not going to happen until the majority want it.
I think I get what you're saying. It's an issue of the only way something was going to get into place is if enough people backed it in the first place.
Right.
And it's not an issue of whether it was right or wrong. It was an issue of the only way it could get there is if there was a majority in the current system, in any system.
Yeah, in any system. So when
unless you're talking about a kingdom where the king is doing whatever he wants, could a kingdom work unless the majority was for them?
What do you consider the king to be? It depends on what you think is correct, right? So if the majority does not want gay marriage and the king puts gay marriage into place, was he right?
Yeah. Okay. Talking about the gay marriage one might be confusing for me and maybe part of the audience. And the thing that sticks in my head with this is way worse things like death penalty for apostasy, which is the thing that I care a lot about in my organization. So maybe is that something you want to talk about?
Well, let's use that for an example.
Sure.
Right now in countries that are majority Muslim and they are very hardline Muslims, they believe in this death for people that want to change their religion, right? In some of these countries, that's what the majority wants. And so it's going to be hard to change those laws. But if there's anything that's ever going to correct for when a majority makes a mistake, and you and I think this is a mistake, right? We think it's a mistake that they have these laws, right? Now, I mean, only the future can tell us if we're correct. We can say to ourselves we're correct, but we're not going to convince those people in that country we're correct, right? So anyway,
I am trying to do that with my YouTube channel and things like that. But yeah.
You're pointing out to them that they're wrong, right? You're making this argument.
Well, I mean, it's not going to work until they're convinced. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But if we want to impose upon them a law that we think is correct, the only way to do that would be with a larger majority. So in other words, if they
it would be more like a larger military.
Well, yes, but if the whole world were to look at it, let's say it was, it's one country, and the rest of the world is looking at them and going, "You're wrong," then we can do things like sanctions and things. And this is how the world works right now, right? And if there is a problem with a majority somewhere in the world, it takes the rest of the world to act up and to point out their mistake and try to make them correct it, right? And hopefully, the best way to do that is to change their minds, to make them realize that they're in the wrong with the decision that they have made. Right? That's the best way, not militarily. That's not
I
the
agree.
best way to handle it. But if there is going to be any correction, this is the way the world has always worked. I'd like to point this out. This is the way the world has always worked without my system at all.
Yeah.
Is that a larger majority is the only way that a mistake is corrected in a smaller majority. right?
I've never considered it before, but I think it's, yeah, at first glance, it makes sense.
Show me an example. I kept thinking in my mind when
Okay.
I came up with this whole concept of a larger majority is the only corrective measure for a smaller mistake in a majority. I came to this conclusion, and I kept trying to think of what scenario, like what king or ruler or whatever has actually ever corrected anything right and put it right, despite the fact that the majority of his population did not want that.
And let's be clear, what kind of population? Like, are you saying necessarily full citizens, slaves, or do you just mean everybody?
I just mean everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is the majority of what they want. Now, I'm saying this because I don't believe they should have slaves. Obviously, in a country where they have slaves, they're not going to allow them to even have an opinion. But
right.
In my mind, the correct thing is that everybody gets a say in this, and they decide, the majority decides what the correct action is.
Now, but even within what you just said, it's vague on the question of like what age you should get it. Do 5-year-olds have that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's all up for debate to some degree, but I think we can all agree that it's probably going to be somewhere between 16 and 20 that we're going to allow somebody to start having any say.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, judges in a family court scenario doesn't always just go by age. They will go based on what the judge thinks is the mental capacity of the person.
Yeah.
Like, so I've been in a court like this before, and I remember the judge asking the child, do you understand what is right and wrong?
Yeah.
And then based on the child's answer, the judge was like, okay, so we can move forward now. If the child was like, huh? What's that? Then it would have been something different.
Well, all these are kind of semantics, though, when it comes to this. And I also have to add one other thing about, like you were saying, who makes the rules about, who to listen to and who not to and what have you. We each, as individuals, are going to make these rules as we go. I'm not telling anybody what ideas or whose ideas to pay attention to, and I can't enforce that on anybody. So anyway, the point being, though, that I'm making here is that when it comes to boycotting an industry, let's say we decide a shoe company is crazy, we don't like them, and we all want to boycott them, right? Well, that's up to us as individuals. We may all make that decision individually. And if there's enough of us that want to boycott the company, well, then the boycott's going to take place, right?
So let me clarify. You weren't. Okay, keep going then.
All right, now let me finish this up. Now, when it comes to something like that, has to have a law put into place. Like, we need to have a politician actually write a law and put a law into place and have it go through Parliament and all the rest of that. Now, it's not us making the decision who to listen to. It's those parliamentarians. They now are making the choice about who amongst the all these opinions that are coming to them, and they will have all the information to go with it. So they'll be able to look at it and say, well, this is all 15-year-olds saying this, or 10% of these are 15-year-olds, and 5% of them are 10-year-olds, and then 60% of them are above 25. Right? He has all that information, and it is up to him to make his choice. Right? About whether or not he's going to let 10-year-olds dictate the next law. That is up to the politician, and we see what choice he's making. We also see how many 10-year-olds are talking about that thing, if they can even get into our system. But the point being, though, we judge him on the judgments he makes.
So there's transparency in the data.
That we're judging him. Huh?
So there's transparency in the data, in the sense that right now, it's not just an issue of our politicians have faulty data about us. It's also that we don't even know what data they're looking at.
That's right. Yes. Big clue. That is huge. You don't realize how
they don't show us.
They don't show us
what they're seeing.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the biggest thing about the whole thing, is that we have the same data that they have, and now we can look at how they're analyzing the data, and we can decide if we want them doing that in the future. right? Maybe they're just idiots. And we can see that because of the way they're dealing with the data. We can see the same data. Now we decide, like, I don't want that guy in that fucking position because he's an idiot, right? So, yes, that is the biggest point of this whole thing, is that everybody sees the data. It's a feedback loop that comes back to me, so I can now judge how other people are judging the data, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Cool. I'm glad. That's exactly.
Yeah. So did I answer the question, you think?
Well, there was the other half, which was, what are the alternatives?
Yeah.
You know, and it was in existence before you came up with KAOS. What was wrong with them, and why did it need a replacement?
Well, I think you answered that there when you said that now we're all working from the same data. Right now, we have no clue. That's the biggest difference here.
Oh, you're talking about like the existing social media, like Reddit and Twitter and all that stuff.
Well, up until now, okay, now with social networks, I was thinking, our governing system, I thought you were asking about how does this compare to our existing governing system? And you are correct, though, to say that social networks are affecting our governing system right now. So that is
the data collection part. If we say KAOS is the data collection of our opinions,
yeah.
The alternatives, that I know of is, okay, there's everything that they're seeing now is Facebook, is Reddit, which are opinions, but there's also a sort of type of an opinion which isn't us outwardly saying it. It's the data that our companies are collecting from us by doing things like buying from Amazon.
Yes.
When I buy from Amazon, I'm not openly saying, here's my opinion, but that is what's happening.
Yes. Okay. That kind of brings up an interesting point, is there's going to be a whole lot of data in this database that I want to create. And how do you even deal with all that data, right? And this is where other sources will sort through that data. And the same way right now, organizations, companies, different governing agencies, they're all sifting through Reddit and Facebook and all the rest of this. And like you said, Amazon, what we purchase, and they're finding out information about us. Well, I want to make it easier for them to do that. I want them to be able to analyze me accurately, because right now they're judging me.
Something just clicked for me.
They're getting, and it could be bad information. I would much rather that they actually know me than they assume that they think they might know me.
Something just clicked for me.
Yeah.
And I want to explain this to the audience, and then maybe if I'm wrong, you could correct it. So something that companies already do, like let's say Google, they have enough resources. There's no company doing more than them. I'm not saying anyone's beating them, but that's a good example to use.
Yeah.
Google has, they're using the latest advanced tools to analyze all the data that it has access to. And we're also like, if you compare to 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of data sharing between companies compared to today, where now it's like they've designed it to be all kind of one system, and companies are hooking into it as one system to get their data. And whatever that one system is, it's a company that has it, but they're using it for their own profit. It sounds like KAOS is that, but not for that company's profit. It's for us.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. But it also has our opinions also. So it's all the data of the Amazon data that we're buying, and where we're everything that companies would have, plus our opinions, all into one unit. And that's, you can't have more data than that.
No,
that is all the data.
Yeah, and in a way that's easier to measure, so that, like, I can't emphasize this enough. Right now, I am being judged. I am being judged by companies, organizations, and by governments and everything. They're judging what I want and judging about me. And I think they're working with bad data. And if I can give them more accurate data, I'd rather tell them exactly what I want. Right now, they're guessing at what I want based off of what I purchase and stuff like this. I'd rather just tell them what I want. right?
Well,
I think they're making
both pieces of
mistakes.
information seem useful. I want to know what, like, okay, just to do an individual basis, like for you to tell me you're kind, that's one thing. That's a nice bit of data I'd like to hear. But then I want to see it in your actions. So two kinds of data, so in this case, it's my opinions, what I say I want, but then also my actual actions of Amazon purchases and stuff.
Yes.
You know.
That could all be available to them. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's your actions over time, your opinions over time too. Through your past and through your history, that builds up an image of who you are. And I want to give them accurate data. I want them to know who I am. Otherwise, they're judging me badly, and that's a mistake.
So the other kind of alternative I meant to ask about was the latest ones. Like, I remember you were telling me, like, there were companies trying to do something like KAOS, but they never got off the ground for whatever reason. And they also didn't have the design element that you want, where we haven't talked about it yet. But
there are continuously constant groups of people that are trying to do things. Right now, there's on the technocracy subreddit, there's a group of people from Turkey that are trying to put together a more technocratic system of governance. And they just posted something the other day. I haven't looked into their system yet. I'm afraid I'll be a bit of a harsh judge, though, if I do, because I'll guarantee, I mentioned this before to you, but people tend to add extra steps. So I've been watching, when I first started this over 10 years ago, there was a big rush of organizations that were trying to come up with better governing systems. And there was, I think a guy had made a list of over 30 or 40 different organizations around the world, all over the place. And some of them got a lot of traction. There was one out of South America, where exactly, I'm not remembering. Santiago Siri was the guy's name, if I remember correctly. Santiago Siri. He had developed a system where it was basically a web page where people they could post all the different things that were happening in the government, and you could go vote for different things, And he had a system there that he felt worked better than anybody else's. All of these things, though, add steps. You would have to go to a menu. Then you got to look up the subject matter that you want to look at. Then you're going to be asking. It's going to ask you questions, and now finally you can pick one of several options. You cannot just verbally say what you want, though. You don't have free reign of giving an opinion here. You actually have certain opinions put in front of you, and you get to pick one.
So I might be fast forwarding too much, but I remember our conversation about this, and I know what you're talking about, and I know what word that you used with me earlier. So maybe it's too early to say it, but what you're describing is the system itself, all these systems that they're designing, and all the older ones too, like Facebook and Twitter and all those, they put a lot of controls by the system onto the people and their opinions. So as an extreme case, I don't know how extreme this is, but like I often get my posts, let's say, removed in a Reddit group or banned from a Reddit group, or banned. Let's say this happens, it hasn't happened to me, but people get banned by the admins of Reddit who own, those people will just kick you off the whole system. Twitter used to do that. I think it doesn't do it anymore. I'm not sure. Kicking people off the system for this is no different than, imagine, you don't even have to imagine because this actually happens, but still imagine a university has professors. Their job is to truth seek. But then if a professor says something different than what administrators want them to say, they get fired.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing in a university.
Yes. Yeah.
So at the end, so the system that we make that's gathering opinions shouldn't be doing that.
No.
And they do now. So can you tell me how these more late, 30 or 40 competitors to KAOS, the more recent ones, that are really actually trying to do collecting opinions, where Reddit isn't about that really. It ended up being kind of like that. And Facebook isn't that, but it kind of still shows you opinions or whatever. But these other 30 competitors, why do you believe they kept trying to put controls in there? And what are the controls?
Well, this comes down to the idea that we don't trust one another. We don't trust. I don't trust my neighbors, or most people don't trust their neighbors. I'm going to touch on a subject matter here that is very touchy, and that's direct democracy. Now, I don't claim this to be direct democracy, but it is stepping closer to that. I think it's a step towards direct democracy. But since we are not replacing our representatives or anything like that, they still have to write the laws. And so this is just a way to express to our representatives of what we want. This is not direct democracy, but it is getting closer. Now, you can go on any subreddit on Reddit and put out, just mention that you are in favor of direct democracy, and you will see a ton of criticism. The average person thinks that direct democracy is a really, really bad idea.
What's their main beef with it?
They think that everybody is stupid.
Okay, that's the one I always hear. Yes.
Yes.
I've heard it.
The populace.
By the way, I disagree with that.
Lots of examples. They have lots of examples for this, and they do. Like Trump. They can say, well, look at what the populace does. They're idiots. They get Trump, right? Or Brexit. Or, they can give you a million examples of how the people as a massive group are absolutely stupid, right? But what I like to point out is that they've all been corralled and forced into these choices. They did not have everything in the world available to them. When Trump got elected, it was Hillary Clinton or Trump. We didn't have any other options.
Are you saying that if there was chaos, we would have had a different situation?
We would have never got those neither of those people were popular. Neither of them were popular at all. So there's no way they would have been the nominees if we had a proper flow of public opinion, because everybody would have looked at that flow of public opinion and went, holy fuck, Hillary can't win. Nobody likes her, right? The same thing with Trump. They would have went, well, we can't pick him. Nobody likes him, because it would have been extremely obvious that nobody liked these people, right? Now, if you looked at ranked choice voting to any degree, have you looked at ranked choice voting at all?
No.
That's what Alaska's doing now, and this gives you the option so that you can put down your choices. So you can say, well, I want this guy the most, but I want that guy the second most. I want this person the third most and the fourth most, right? And by putting down those choices now, after the vote is done, or once everybody has voted, they pick the candidate that the most people wanted, whether it was their first choice, second choice, or third choice.
Okay.
So at least you're getting a candidate that you wanted.
It's a weighted thing, right? The one must be weighted, let's say 3 times as much as the last one, kind of thing. It's a weighted, right?
Yeah. Well, you're weighting. You're setting priorities. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what the weights are, but it's not important. It's the point is there's more than just the first guy that you're giving a vote to.
Yeah.
And I guess you could choose to only pick one if you wanted.
Yeah. You can only pick one, or you could just pick one if you want, but you can rank them all if you want. That's totally up to you. Yeah. And now they can look at this and they can say, well, the nobody has won entirely, right? Let's say it's close, and if it's within a certain margin, then they start looking at everybody's second choices.
I see. Oh, okay.
And then so you end up with a candidate that everybody wants. Now, in this system, it changes everything, because if you look into the system, it's to me, it's fantastic, and we should be doing ranked choice voting, despite whether or not we ever do what I want to do with KAOS. We should all be supporting ranked choice voting, no matter what. So anyway, ranked choice voting, it also does not help you to criticize your opponent. It puts you in a position that you don't want.
You mean the bad kind of criticizing, insults and cheating and lying about your opponents?
Yes. all that stuff, then really, I don't have the right words here to express how that works, but they do have it well defined in the system. If you look up the data on, look up the Wikipedia, and they will explain to you how it makes it so it's a real disadvantage if you are a negative type of candidate. If you are the one that
has that played out that way in Alaska?
Yes.
There's less.
Everybody is in polling after the election, everybody is far more pleased with the politician they ended up with than any other district.
But what about the part about the politicians ending up being less negative?
Yes, they do.
That has happened.
It ends up being It ends up being detrimental to them to be critical of their opponents. Okay. And the nicer they are to their opponents, the more likely they will be ranked higher. And so it changes the whole dynamic, the entire dynamic of the election. And like I said, polling afterwards shows the public to be far more, the candidate they end up with is a lot more popular than any other candidates in any other districts. They do end up with better politicians this way. So okay. ranked choice voting, I would highly recommend it.
And only Alaska's doing it?
Right now, Alaska is the only place in the U.S. that's doing it. There are other places in the world, but the only American location that's doing it. Okay. Trudeau in Canada, here where I'm from, when he got elected when he was campaigning before he won the election, he promised he was going to bring in ranked choice voting. But as soon as he got in, he never brought it up again. And when asked, he said, "We're thinking about it. We're thinking about it." Once a politician is in power, it is detrimental to him to bring in a better system. So, because he may not.
So, how did Alaska achieve getting that?
I'm not exactly sure how they've actually managed to get that.
Some good guy decided to do it. Even in the worst system of a dictatorship, sometimes you could get lucky and get a good dictator.
Yes. Sometimes. I'm not sure exactly how they managed to do it. I think there's a good story behind it, though. Mm. And but in any case, here in Canada, I was really hopeful that we were going to do this. We elected Trudeau, and anyway, he reneged on that one. So anyway, I think that the next politician in the next election that we have here, whoever starts touting, saying that they will do that, will benefit them greatly to get elected. But I don't know if it's going to come up. I'm hoping it does. I'm hoping that we can push that.
Well, we could be working on helping more Canadians buy into the idea, and then they'll have the majority, and then they will have to.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to help you with that. That's what the part of this is.
Yes. What I can't remember what started me off on this rant about ranked choice voting, though.
I'm not exactly sure either, but I can tell you where we were, which is we were still discussing the alternatives and why they want controls. And you said the main thing is that they think people are stupid, but is there more to it than that? Or do some people have more?
Really, all it does, it comes down to that alone, pretty much. Okay. And here, now, I really want to delve a little deeper into this whole idea that the populace is stupid, okay? Because it's far beyond just the average person. It goes right into the academics. All the academics out there right now are thinking, here's their train of thought. Direct democracy works in a small community, a village, a town. Once you pass the Dunbar number being about 200, I think it is.
That's right.
Once you get past the Dunbar number, then people cannot relate to everybody else so well, and so therefore it starts to get skewed. And this is what the academics think. They think that as you get past the Dunbar number and you have larger and larger groups, they become dumber. Now, I don't understand the logic behind this, how they can come to this logic that the people that
maybe they're thinking, I'll try to advocate for what they're saying. Maybe they're thinking not necessarily that we're dumber, but the the problem is more complex, and with your current capacity, it's harder to solve that problem.
All right, there's a key word there: current capacity. None of them are thinking about current capacity. They're just saying,
I agree with that.
Get past this. They're saying that this is a hurdle we cannot get past.
Yes,
and they have come to the conclusion. They have come to the conclusion there's no passing that hurdle.
We can get smarter, and we are getting smarter. And systems like KAOS is designed to help that happen.
Yeah. So my point is that makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And that they are. 2 people are smarter than 1 person. 4 people are smarter than 2 people. That math should continue forever. And if it does not work that way, we are making a mistake in how we're measuring it. Our method of measurement is the problem. It's not the people, right? And they don't seem to see that at all. They've just come to the conclusion this is a barrier that cannot be passed. So the latest book on democracy, about advancing democracy, the latest book is called, and it's called this, 10% Less Democracy. That's the name of the latest book. And it's being touted as the greatest idea ever. And it's saying that we should take some democracy back out of the hands of the people, but make them feel like they're getting more democracy. They're trying to figure out a way to...
That's propaganda.
Make them... Yeah, it's like all propaganda. They're trying to figure out a way to make it feel like there's more democracy, but there's actually 10% less. They actually equated it to a number of 10%. We need 10% less democracy. Now, how do you come to these conclusions? I can't fathom it.
You said something earlier that I know happens a lot. There's some rich people, very rich people, families that really see like the whole world as a playing ground for them to manipulate us.
Yeah.
That happens, and I'm definitely not claiming all of them do that or whatever. Some of them, and I'm talking about some of that in my work, by the way. But if you ever want to get into it, there's a book, The Underground History of American Education, by John Taylor Gatto.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. It would make me pissed off, and I'll be going on ranting for a while.
Yeah.
So, but back to KAOS. So, you've talked with the creators of the other 30 alternatives, the competitors, and they disagreed with you on the part about
they feel the same as all the other academics out there, that the people are stupid after you reach a certain amount, and that scares the hell out of them. The ones that will admit it to me, because most of them won't admit it to me, but when you nail it down, they will admit that I'm not comfortable with allowing.
Well, I thought of something.
Yeah.
That maybe they're worried about, and I saw this happening in Reddit and Facebook, which is, so there's 2 levels here. There's the people that make the groups, the Facebook groups and the Reddit subreddits. Then there's the people that run Facebook and Reddit. 2 separate groups here, and I mean, there's also the users or whatever, but these groups have to worry about. They're controlling their users. These groups, the mods, are controlling the users because, and I'll tell you very clear examples, because these guys will get rid of the groups if they don't.
Yeah.
Okay, but one extra level now. I'm pretty sure the government will fuck with Reddit and Facebook if they don't do it also. Yeah. So as an example of a thing.
Yeah.
On the level of the Facebook groups and subreddits, in groups for ex-Muslims, if we are criticizing Islam and we say something about the Prophet of Islam and pedophilia, and let's say you do some image of something, or even without an image, and then let's say a Muslim reports it, Reddit and Facebook, they don't care about the content. They care that a lot of people are reporting it.
Yes.
Okay. And then it gets reported, and then let's say now a Reddit admin or Facebook admin is looking at this report and saying, Yeah, we don't want to offend people, so we're going to get rid of this post. So then and then there's whole groups get erased that way.
Yeah.
Like a group of 75,000 people in a Facebook group
Yeah.
will be erased because of this. So then the Facebook groups, when they come back online again, they make a new group and bring 75,000 people again, the same people. I don't know how they're doing this. There's one group had to do this 14 times. Man, I'm getting pissed. Let me take a second.
Yeah.
So what they had to do is institute a new set of secret rules where if a post gets reported and if it's clear to them that there's nothing wrong with it, they can tell it's a Muslim doing it. It's a bad report. Okay?
Yeah.
A false positive. What they'll do is immediately ban that user that reported it, delete the post immediately after that, so that Reddit never sees it, so that they never erase that group.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the higher level now. Reddit admins. If there were people, and this happens, I know this happens, there's the story recently about it. If there were people that were trying to get people to do an insurrection, to rebel against the government.
Yeah.
And first of all, I think there's laws being broken while that's being talked about.
Yeah.
Right? So then I don't know how the laws work here now. The government sees it as, we need to stop that discussion happening because it is illegal. And it's happening on Reddit, so we need to pressure Reddit to do that policing.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't know the laws of how this works. I don't even know if it's I don't even know if it's following the laws, but I know people are doing it. In the government, people are doing it.
They're doing it because they think they're doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's whether it's right and there's whether it's legal too. And I don't know either of them.
Yeah.
So then suppose KAOS did it your way with no control, and then these people are doing these things that happen to be illegal in a country, and then that country says, all right, well, KAOS is deleted in our country.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Which happens, by the way, like there's countries that, well, there's North Korea that blocked out the whole internet.
Yeah.
But then there's countries like Iran that block out certain websites.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
or they have kind of a different version in their country.
Yeah. But basically they got rid of KAOS that way.
Yeah. No, that's going to be an issue. I don't have all the answers when it comes to this. I'm not a free speech absolutist, but almost. And this has a lot to do with larger majorities. So I don't know how we can do this. I'm going to try to. I'm designing this system, first of all, so it's not a conversation. It is a place that you put your opinion. And now other people can have an opinion on that opinion, but it's not done in a way that it's a flowing conversation. And the reason why I want to avoid conversation, because conversation is where people go crazy with their stuff, right? I want to be very serious that these are serious opinions, so people are less likely, and also remember about their reputation. This stays in there forever. So people will be a little more hesitant to just say, well, that guy is a pedophile, right? Because it'll be on the record forever that you call everybody a pedophile every time you're pissed off, right?
Yeah.
So pretty soon, your opinion's not going to be worth shit, and you're going to know this. So these are reasons why we'll get less vitriol going on in the system, okay? Yeah. So it'll be a little better that way, but we are still going to be touching on all kinds of touchy subject matter with these opinions. Lots, all the time.
Well, a lot of that discussion is worthwhile. Like, it is worthwhile to talk about how we should have laws regarding pedophilia or the having sex with children. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, the point. Yeah. So I want it all on there myself, personally. I can see, though, when this becomes virtually worldwide, almost like 80%, 90% of the world is on our system, it'll be very, very difficult to ban any kind of speech, because the N-word doesn't mean much in China. It doesn't mean much in Myanmar. It doesn't mean much.
Who would be doing the banning in this scenario you're talking about?
What?
Like, who would be doing the banning?
Well, what I'm saying,
in countries in general.
Well, what I'm saying is, if we get big enough, in order to get something banned, everybody in the entire organization, which when we're up around 80% of the population, everybody would have to be in agreement that that needs to be banned. Right? We're working by a majority here. Right? So my point is that almost nothing would get banned, because what is a trigger word that's going to be a trigger word to everybody in the world? Hardly anything, right? So the bigger our majority, the less banning there's going to be, first of all. Now, different individual countries, like you were saying, individual countries now, they're still going to have a problem with it. A Muslim country is not going to like you talking about Muhammad, right? So how we're going to deal with these issues on the individual basis, I see it as possibly running a mirror system. We have the pure system, right? Everybody has access to that. In a certain country, we can have a version of our system where almost everything's in there except for the stuff that they don't want, right?
Meaning it has some controls in that one.
They can have controls. I'm just throwing.
The system is not doing the controls, but like a subreddit group. But this is a country within KAOS puts their own control.
That's right, and for their own citizens. Now, we'll allow this so that they don't ban the entire system, right? But in every country out there, there's a way to get around your country's controls. So this is a mirror system. So let's say Turkey has their own version of KAOS that they're running, but they're mirroring everything else that's in the rest of KAOS except for the stuff they don't like. Right?
But to be clear, I don't know what you think, but whatever those bans are should be clearly stated at the top. Here are all the bans, just so you know.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and they should do that because they don't want people saying certain things, so they should be putting that out there, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the point though is that this is a mirrored system. So now we're complacent with them now in Turkey, but the citizens of Turkey could easily circumvent their mirrored system and get to the main system and actually figure out what people actually are saying, despite what their country is not allowing. So there will be ways to get around the system. And then there's around these individual systems for each country. And I'm just suggesting this right now. This will take a much bigger conversation. I don't know the exact answer how we're going to deal with this stuff. But right now, every social network is navigating these waters, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're no different.
And we're also agreeing that they're doing it poorly.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing it very poorly. Hopefully, we can find better ways to do it. And like I said, I think that possibility would be to allow countries to have their own systems where they take out certain information, but their citizens will probably have ways of getting around that if they want to.
So here's the thing. Every country today, I think, would want those controls. Even the US and Canada and Britain.
They may very well.
So then there's no pure universal KAOS. There's only individual nations.
Why can't we run one above all the countries, though? We can
yes, you can. Yeah, you definitely can. Oh, yeah. Wait. So every country has a mirrored one because they want their controls. Like in the case of the US, what are we not allowed to say? You can't call for the assassination of the president.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. If somebody said that on Reddit, and then Reddit didn't delete it, or something, I'm pretty sure the U.S. government legal triggers start happening, right?
Yeah.
But so we would have a mirror of KAOS for the U.S. and the universal one, and people can be going on either of them. So yeah, I guess you solved it.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. And yes, and different countries will try to make sure that they block accesses to the overriding system, but nobody is ever able to. I don't think any country has ever been successful in doing that with any of the other systems out there. So in other
every
words,
lock can be picked.
Yeah, every lock can be picked. Exactly. Yes. So anyway, these are issues that are going to plague us and be a problem going into the future. But they are not any system we build is going to have to deal with these things.
Well, and the point is to try to actually engage with them and try to solve these problems.
Yeah.
In a way where it doesn't break the heart of the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
if this is an initial recording here or whatever, I don't think we've explained what KAOS is at all yet.
Okay.
So, KAOS is a database of public opinion. So everybody just freely at any moment, at any time of the day, when something gets their attention and they feel like they have something they want to say about it, they simply click on our. All they do is they go to our their phone or their computer, type in what their opinion is. And right away, our search engine is going to find if there's anybody else that has put that opinion out there. And if it's already been put out there, then you can vote on it. You can vote it up and say that I support that opinion. If it's not been there yet, then yours goes in that place and it becomes the first version of that opinion. And it'll show you opinions that are close to it. And you may decide, well, I'm going to vote on that one instead. But to make it really, really simple, you could just put your opinion in there and hit go. And the system will decide, will figure out if it's already in there, then you've given it an upvote. If it's not already there, yours is in there. And that's the end of all the participation you need to do. Put your opinion in and go. So that's how fast and easy it can be. But now you can get more in depth with the system by looking at it, and it'll show you other opinions that are similar, which ones are trending, and you'll get more power. Like, people may never see your individual opinion because it may not be in line with their opinions. But you might find an opinion out there that's more in line with everybody else's. It's already trending. So if you put your vote on that one, you're boosting it, giving it more traction. So, and if it's close to what you want already, well, that's a good thing. You want that one to get more traction. But maybe it doesn't quite satisfy you 100%. And you still like your opinion better. But the one you put in is only your vote so far. It's not trending. You hope it'll trend, but it's not trending yet. So anyway, you have the option of being able to put a vote on the one that's trending, but still put the priority vote on the one you put in saying, I will accept that, but I prefer this.
Meaning you're bringing in the ranked voting that you talked about in Alaska.
That's right.
Where your main opinion that you, let's say, 100% agree with.
This is a really big deal to be able to rank your voting or priorities. Priorities. Everybody has priorities. In the entire system, in the entire world of opinions, you may have one thing that you are the most concerned about. And you need a way to say that, right? For some people, it might be nuclear proliferation. That's the biggest concern in the world, right? Other people, it might be the environment, getting CO2 out of our atmosphere. That might be the biggest concern that they have. We all need to have a way to say what our biggest concern in the world is, right? Then even on smaller issues, like, gay marriage or something like that, we may have an opinion on that too. And in that area alone, you may have, once again, your priorities. Your priorities. You have your opinion that you have the highest priority for, but you'll take other people's opinions. Like in gay marriage, it might be the law will accept it, but Catholic churches won't perform gay marriages. Well, you might want Catholic churches to perform gay marriages, but you're going to support the other one, the law that just says legally it's legal marriage, right? But you really want the Catholic Church, so you'll put priority on that one, say you both want it legal and in the Catholic Church, right? But you will accept the fact that it's only going to be legal by the law. And you'll go, I'll vote on that too, but my priority is that it's legal in the Catholic Church and by law, right? So the point being that we have priorities, and we don't have a system at all right now that allows us to be able to the world to judge what our priorities are. And that is a really, really, really big deal about what the people's priorities are. That allows our governments to focus on what really matters to us. And right now, I don't think they do. They decide what the priorities are, and we don't have a choice, right?
And they badly guess on what they think our priorities are. And
yeah. Priorities are really, really, really big deal. And so all the way through the entire system, you can set priorities. And throughout this entire system, right up to your very top priority of the main thing that you're concerned about in the world. And so back to the system is we have a database of public opinion. It is placed there. Now, there's no place for putting comments or anything. You can put an opinion about another opinion. You can link to an opinion and say, I have this opinion about that opinion. Now, it's not set up in a conversational type of format. So now your politicians, how this leads to changes is that if enough people, first of all, without the politicians being involved, we can make changes. If a shoe company out there is advertising by using the N-word and we all think that they're idiots or they're supporting Hamas or Israel or something like that, and we're all against that, we want to boycott them. We only need to convince a bunch of other people to do it. We don't need any governments involved, right? So this is where if we can show enough support for it and everybody signed up to boycott this company, we can just do that. Okay, so that's one way it'll affect our world. The other way is things like gay marriage again. When the president of the United States is wondering whether or not he should make gay marriage legal, he can look right here and it tells him what the populace thinks about that. So as soon as it shows that there's a popular vote or that the majority of people want this, the politician now feels very free to do that, and he'll be a more popular politician when he does. So that's the reason he would do that. He would enact gay marriage because he sees that's the popular thing to do, and that's what's going to make him a more popular politician. So this is how our placing our opinions in this data bank will lead to changes in the world, either directly or through our politicians. Okay, so that's basically how it works. And worldwide, everybody can put an opinion out there, and all the data is there. So even though the whole world is commenting about gay marriage, the American president, he can tell the data. He knows who Americans are, what they're saying. He can see what other people in other parts of the world are saying. He can see the demographics, what age group they're in. He can see all that information is there for him. So he can now make a sound judgment on whether or not he should allow gay marriage. Now, we also see all that information. So we can see
judging them.
So we can rank, we can now decide whether or not he's making bad decisions based on bad info that he's decided to prioritize. Let's say he's decided to make all his decisions based on what everybody over 80 is saying. He doesn't care what anybody under 80 is saying.
Okay.
Well, then I don't think I want him as my politician anymore, right? So that changes my opinion of him, right? So anyway, this is all a feedback loop. Right now, we don't have a feedback loop. First of all, the politician does not have a good, accurate way of measuring public opinion. Second of all, we have no way of knowing what information he's working with, right? Or us. And we also need to know what all the world thinks about any particular opinion. It's a feedback loop to us, to the politicians, to everybody. They always talk about top-down systems or bottom-up systems.
This is a network.
We have everything in the world right now works top-down. right? The only bottom-up systems we have are our social networks. That's the closest thing we have to a bottom-up system. And it's crap. Works like shit. We have, different bits of information coming in from different sources in all different ways. And we cannot put it all together to get a good idea of what the public opinion is. So I want to just build a system that allows for bottom-up communication that is clear and easy to define. Now, easy to define in the sense that all the information is there, but sometimes it would be, it's easy for me to take a look and think what everybody thinks about gay marriage. But when I want to get right down to the demographics about who's saying what, that's a lot of work, right? That's a lot of work. If I want to know, is it people under, what do people under 20 think? And also,
with computers, it's not a lot of work. Not for humans.
The point being is we can get artificial intelligence is going to help us a lot in this area. Yeah. And it's going to give us advice about, we'll just be able to ask it, what is it? And we don't have to we don't have to go through every bit of information in there. Artificial intelligence is going to make it much easier. Artificial intelligence, internet influencers, the different people that we like to pay attention to. If you're a fan of Sam Harris or if you're a fan of, different people out there that are putting opinions out there. I like Robert Wright. I like his opinion on a lot of things. And when he'll be going through a lot of this information and telling us what it means. And I will gladly accept what he says because I trust him. And other people, but I only trust him in certain areas. I think he's I don't think he's the smartest guy in certain areas. And so certain things I'm going to trust him, certain things I'm going to trust somebody else. Right? And I've talked about this before, but with you, but just to make it clear here, humans do not make decisions based on data. They never have. We all make our decisions based on, we don't have all the data, first of all. Second of all, it's way too much work to go through all the data every time we go to make a decision. We base our decisions on how we feel at the moment. And how we feel at the moment is based upon what our friends have said, what the different people that influence us have said in the past about this, all the different sources of information we have coming into us, which is not usually raw data. It's usually something filtered through somebody else, right? This is how we make our decisions. This is how we do it now. This is the way we've done it in the past. This is the way it's always been, right? You go to your pastor or your priest. You go to your politician. You go to your.
Well, I was. Let me say to the audience another way of saying what you're saying. You tell me if it's right. I was saying this to a friend of mine, and I've been saying this more and more often. I was thinking if you were to take all the facts in anybody's head, my head, let's say, all the facts.
Yeah.
And if you label them in with one question of how did I get the information? Did I hear it from someone, or did I do something myself? Phone is not a good example, but like how did I find out there's this much water in here?
Yeah.
Nobody told me. I got the information myself through like an experiment.
Yeah.
Right. Hands-on.
Yeah.
A lot of the facts in my head are not the hands-on way.
That's right.
I heard them from other people. Even I studied physics, okay? I have a degree in physics. Even a lot of the physics facts in my head, people might imagine that I did a lot of laboratory experiments. We did a lot, but no, it's almost all I heard it from other people. And I didn't make my own physics theories, by the way. I didn't invent any physics theories. Learned that from other people. Now, I didn't use my own reasoning to learn them and judge them. And then, so there is a lot on my end. It wasn't just I blindly accepted what Einstein said about things.
Yeah.
But the point is, this was to clarify what you said. We're not operating on a lot of data. No. We're not. I didn't go get all the data to know all the stuff I know.
We're working on
a lot of other people.
We're working on filtered data, filtered through people.
Yes.
through other people, through other entities. Pretty soon it's going to
For
be
10,000 years of people.
Yeah,
10,000
years of people. Yes,
yes.
Exactly. Without that past history, we would not be where we are today. We
wouldn't.
all that past history to get to where we are today. Yeah. And even though this seems like it's going to be a ton of data that we are going to collect, and that seems unfathomable that anybody could sift through it all, the fact of the matter is you're not going to sift through it all for most of us, but you can, but you can at least fact check. You can, if my artificial intelligence is telling me that this percentage of the people are saying this, I can say what demographic is that? I can get all the data to narrow it down to figure out, you're talking about exactly these kinds of people and this and that, and then I can go to our data and check it and see whether or not he's working with actual proper data, right? And I can fact check things. It'd be a pain in the ass, but I could do that just to make sure that things are correct. And different organizations and different AIs will be checking other AIs. And they will be saying, there will be judgments made of the judgment systems that are judging the judgment systems. It's going to be layer over layer over layer over layer, right? So when there are inaccuracies, they will come out in most cases eventually. And we will be able to be pretty confident that we are working with good data.
So just to be clear for the audience, I guess, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be able to improve over time, but not really over time, but it needs to improve iteratively. When we notice a problem with it, that's when we deal with something. And in the case of the opinions themselves, it's the same. Whatever opinions we all have today, let's suppose chaos was around and all the opinions that are in it. Yeah, a lot of the opinions are wrong, but if you think 20 years of more chaos, the system, a lot of those opinions would have improved. The flaws in them got fixed. No different than, our physics theories today are better than the physics theories we had 400 years ago. Yeah. But the idea is chaos is going to accelerate it compared to any system today.
And nobody is claiming we have physics correct right now.
Yeah, nobody does. Yeah,
nobody does.
A lot of people do think stupid stuff like that, but the physicists recognize all our physics theories are flawed in the sense that we will find better ones later.
That's right.
Unlike if you go back to like 200 years ago, people really did believe that the physics theories we have, which at the time was Newton's theories of gravity and stuff like that, they did believe that was it.
Yeah.
Okay. But then when Einstein showed that was wrong, then after that, the tradition after Einstein was, oh no, yeah, we don't know what we're talking about. We don't have the end theories. Even Einstein, we know now Einstein's theory is also wrong because it doesn't mess with quantum mechanics. Yeah. There needs to be a new theory that resolves the conflict between those two theories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but he's moved us ahead leaps and bounds.
Oh man. That's a whole episode by itself.
Yeah. So I don't know if that explains it entirely, but So
no, it definitely doesn't. But it's a good summary. This episode was a good summary for everyone. Audience, please, if you're interested in this so far, we haven't said very much. We're going to have future episodes where we're going to get into a lot more detail. And to be clear, too, Brian hasn't figured it all out yet either. I say Brian because I don't know a lot of the details anyway. Like, I'm still a novice at this. I'm only just a little bit ahead of you, audience, okay? So we're going to have future episodes where we're going to get into more of the details. But again, we need episodes where we actually establish the details. There's a lot of details that have not been established. So, So do you have anything else for the end of this?
I just want to mention that once again, the biggest hurdle to this is even though this is a platform for opinions, our biggest hurdle is public opinion. The public opinion right now is that the people are stupid. And the bigger the group, the stupider they are. This is the biggest battle by far that I need to overcome. And it's being compounded now by social networks because everybody, and they are correct, thinks that social networks are fucking everything up and making it much, much worse. And I think that they are correct in this assumption. But that does not mean that
we can't have a better one.
Yeah, we need a better system of collecting this data. The data is not the problem. The problem is in how we interpret the data. We're not interpreting it correctly because we don't have it systematically in a good method, being stored in a good method for analysis. You cannot analyze what's on Facebook, what's in Twitter, and what's on Reddit. You cannot come to one single conclusion about anything based on those three sites because they are so different in how they accumulate the information. So we need a better way to be able to analyze information, and it is correct though that we want more information. We want more public opinion out there, but we want it in a way that it is understandable and that it is possible to
transparent,
and we can trust it. And so that's the biggest barrier by far are the idea that everybody thinks that the people are stupid and that social networks are making everything worse.
So I guess we haven't talked about this part. I'm helping you with the marketing side of this operation, and maybe more than that, but right now it's just marketing. And so, I believe that part of my job is to educate our audiences, both mine and yours, the whole world, on KAOS. And, this is what you're saying. That's the barrier, right? If people don't even want KAOS, that's a barrier to KAOS.
Yes. Yeah, well, for sure it is. And, I just, if I could tell you in just a moment here about my latest attempts to get the idea out there to groups that I would think would be very accepting of these ideas. So Robert Wright, who I mentioned to you before, he keeps talking about something called the noosphere. Have you ever heard of the noosphere?
Mm-mm.
The noosphere was put out there by a French author and then talked about by a Russian author sometime later. And it's the idea that we seem to be heading in a specific direction, all the people on Earth and how we're connected and everything. So we automatically make connections. So the beginning of this was just trade. All the different methods of trade and communication and trade amongst the different tribes and everything, right? And it's become more and more complicated and more connected, right? And these connections are becoming deeper and deeper and more tighter. And complex. So, ultimately, we're now at social networks and things like this that are really connecting everybody all together. Anyway, this guy wrote about this before we got to that, though. He was still talking about the telegraph and the telephone, right? And he was saying all these things are building like what's very much like a nervous system around the planet. And slowly as this nervous system grows, eventually it becomes like a big brain. And eventually, he said in the future, he called this the noosphere. And he called it, like there's all the different spheres. There's the environmental sphere or the different, I can't remember the examples, but there's different spheres that we talk about. Anyway, he says this is the noosphere.
What is the significance of the Noah, N-O-O sphere?
N-O-O sphere.
What does that mean, N-O-O? Like?
Yeah, well, I don't, like I said, it's just another level of spheres.
Okay, so it's okay. So
and that's the only way I can explain it. I might be missing something. Maybe there's more to the name than I realize. But in any case, he calls it the noosphere. And so Robert Wright talks about this all the time. This is one of the reasons why I've tried to communicate with him, is because he talks about this global brain. To me, if we're eventually, he believes we're eventually going to reach this global brain thing. Some people call this there's different interpretations of what's called the singularity. Some people call this the singularity. Okay. That's another term that's used heavily in this area. Okay. So if we're going to reach this point, right? Eventually, we need, for any kind of brain or any kind of nervous system, there has to be communication in both directions, right? from the brain to the different components, from the different components to the brain, right? Right now, we only have top-down communication that works well. The bottom-up communication is very scattered and it's not working with a shit. And this is what I'm trying to create, right? Is bottom-up communication, right? Bottom-up communication, by definition, is moving more towards a direct democracy, right? So right now, all these organizations, the term of direct democracy or more social networks is the scariest thing in the world to them. But if you want to build the noosphere and you think that's the end result that you want to get to, don't we have to get past that hurdle? Don't we have to get to a point where there's somehow pure, smooth, bottom-up communication? Right?
Yeah.
We got to get to that point. Somehow that's one of the hurdles to getting to the noosphere. Yet there's an organization that's called, what is it called? Human Energy or something like that. I'd have to look it up on my phone. But they are claiming, all they talk about is the noosphere. That's all they talk about. That's what there's a YouTube channel. They put out a bunch of high production videos on this. And it's all about, and they're working with several universities around the world, right? And they're holding conferences on the noosphere, right? I sent them a fucking email here a couple of weeks ago now saying, I'm working on this bottom-up communication. I see that there's an issue here that we're not working on this, right? That everybody's moving in the other direction. 10% less democracy, right? That's moving the other way. We're going the wrong fucking way, right? Nobody in the world. I feel like I'm such a fucking, like I'm just bragging about myself here when I say this, but I'm the only one. I seem like I'm the only one that wants to move in the right direction towards the noosphere, towards a global brain, towards direct democracy. I'm the only fucking one, right? That's actually got a plan to do this at all. There are other people that push towards direct democracy, but not with this plan. And I seem to be the only one. So anyway, the point being, though, I contact these people and they don't even talk to me. I don't get a response at all.
Yeah.
Robert, right? I've been communicating. I told you I had, there was a video call thing that we did, a Zoom call, where he had answered people's questions. And I brought this up with him, and, right away he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, right? So send me an email. So I sent him an email, right? And so he has an assistant named Clark. And I talked to Clark directly, and Clark said, yeah, we'll take your email. I'll help you with it, right? So anyway, so I sent him what I thought was kind of a rough draft, and then Clark would help me kind of define it a little better. And then I was going to have it go to Robert Wright. Well, anyway, I guess he didn't do that. He misunderstood what I thought he was going to do. But anyway, he did return an email, and he said, we're really busy. I don't know. I didn't promise you anything except for to make sure that Robert was going to get to see this, and which he did. And he said that other than that, I didn't promise you anything. He goes, and we're really busy here. But, if we can help you in some way, let us know. But don't expect too much because we're really, really busy, right?
Okay, can you clarify something for me? What are they busy doing? Why wouldn't they want something like? Do they have a competing product or what?
Yeah, nothing like this. So anyway, well, just putting out newsletters. He's an author, and he's constantly putting out newsletters and podcasts. So they're busy.
Does he at least talk about the fact that there needs to be some sort of underground technology that helps do this?
Oh yeah, he brought it up several times. He's asked people for their ideas.
He's telling you to contact him.
And he won't fucking return to my fucking emails. So, yeah. So anyway, he dismissed me on the Zoom call. I just said, send me an email. So I did that. Finally, that guy got back to me only after I pushed him. I said, after 2 weeks, I waited 2 weeks after I sent him an email, a long email, explaining my idea as in depth as I could, right? I sent him this long email. I was expecting him to edit it down before it got to Robert. But anyway, never did that. So he sends me, after 2 weeks, I wait. And then I send him back and I sent another email. I said, you promised to help me. And then you never get back to me. What's with that? So He gets back to me right away. Within 15 minutes, he sends me an email and he goes,
I like
I'm
your
so
style,
sorry.
by the way. I like your style.
Yeah. He goes, I'm so sorry. You know, I did promise I'd tell you I would help you, but I didn't promise that, you know, anything beyond that. I just promised that I would get it to what's his name? To Robert. And so then he says, he goes, so I've done that. Now, let me know if there's anything else we can do, as long as it's not too much, basically is what he's saying, right? So, you know, we're busy here. We can't really help you with too much, but if we can help you in some little way, let us know. So I got back to him. I said, I just want, you haven't, all you said was my idea was intriguing. That's all he said about it. I said, I want an analysis of my idea. I want an analysis from Robert. Does he think it's a good idea or a bad idea, right? And so that's all I want. I don't expect anything else from him. Just a yes or a no, good or bad, what have you. And I said, if you can't corner him on that question, just give me your own answer.
Okay. I like that.
Right? So I'm making it as little effort as possible.
Yeah. I follow.
Right? I'm saying, just give me your own answer. I just want a reply of any kind. Of any kind. It can even be a stop and desist, I said. If you want to just say, stop contacting us, we don't want to talk to you, that tells me everything.
Yes.
Right?
And you
don't have to do any more than that. That is so little that I'm expecting from you. And then that's the way I put it. Is this too much to ask? Right? I'm asking for one word. I'm asking for one word. Is this too much to ask? I said. I send him that email. I never get a response.
Oh, okay. So I'll say one thing about that. Going forward, I will do my best to help you with those kind of things. So you can use me to check your email before you send it. And then maybe the two of us doing it with them will help. Something like that.
I must be the most grating person in the world because I never get a response from everybody. Like,
I have that same problem, but part of it is it's a complex idea. A lot of people don't like writing, and then part of it is this also. In their eyes, you're a nobody. You don't have an audience yet. You don't have a team of people helping you with the project yet. So, like, maybe that they see it as it's too hard.
Okay,
but for me, I don't know. I fell in love with the idea right away. So
let me finish up here. So this was I've been following up with more emails. Going, well, I'm going to keep sending you emails
until you say stop sending.
Until you say something, right? And I kept just filling in with more information about my idea and whatever. So anyway, Robert puts out an email every week. A long email of his editorials on different things, right? And so I listen to these every week, plus his podcast and everything else. This is on top of that. So anyway, I get the email this week, and he is asking, and I don't know where this place is. Like on their own website, maybe they must have a place for comments. I don't know. But anyway, he asked in a very short little bit, he mentioned amongst a bunch of other stuff he was saying, he said, okay, we're getting, I just want to touch a little bit on the topic of social networks and where they're leading us. And anybody that has any thoughts in this area, I want you to mention it in the comments. And I think that was a direct message to me. I think it was a direct message to me. Here's your opportunity to see what other people are going to think about what you're saying. And you can put it in the comments here, right? Without addressing me directly. I think this was a way to kind of...
Or at least a way for him to gather information from his audience about the topic that you're bringing up.
Yeah.
Very general part of it.
Yeah, very, very general.
Extremely general. I can't think of something more general.
Anyway, so this email just came out on Friday. I've been really busy. I'm going to re-listen to it again. And I'm going to try and figure out where this comment section is that he's talking about. I don't know where it is. I am so lost. I don't know technology very well. So
why don't you send it to me? I'll try to help you. I
struggle so badly with this shit. So like, for example, when I was on the Zoom call with him, that he had, when I first brought this up with him, and he's doing another one on the 17th. And on my last email, I said, he can expect I'm going to be on there. I said, I don't care if I'm the last guy. I expect to be the last guy he talks to. But eventually, because he answers every person that has a question. So I said, he's fine. He can make me the last one. I expect he will. But he can expect I'm going to ask him about this. So he knows it's going to come up again.
until he gets an order of protection or something.
Oh yeah. So anyway, but when I was on that Zoom call, and I mentioned this again, and I said, and I'll be the idiot waving my hand in the air on camera like this the entire time. I said, don't feel bad for me. I'll wait for the entire 2 hours of the show. I will have my hand up the entire time because I'm too stupid to know how to work the system. Because somehow on the last call, they said, anybody has a question, use the hand icon to put your hand up. I couldn't figure out how to work that thing. I went through there's a place for comments, and I went through there and I went through all the emojis. There's a hand emoji, and I fucking hit that, and it came up in the comments. But I don't know if that puts it on the screen from, and I could see other people. They weren't showing their faces, but there were blank spots all over the screen for all the different people that were on there, and they would show a hand emoji, right? I couldn't see mine. My image wasn't up there, so I couldn't tell if I had a hand emoji up. So I'm like, are they ever going to ask me a question? Am I doing this right? So I literally put my hand up like this, and I sat there the whole time waving my hand. Anytime now, half an hour I sat here waving my hand like this. And then when finally the guy that was working it with Robert, he goes, well, there's a guy here who was waving his hand for the last half an hour, so we'll put him on because I'm starting to feel bad for him. So in the last email I just sent him, I said, I'm going to be that idiot, wave my hand in a fucking video because I'm so fucking stupid. Anyway, so that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to be standing there waving my hand on the 17th. But anyway, in the meantime, I got to figure out how to get a comment in this comment section that he's referring to.
Well, like I said, I'm offering my help on that. And if you want, maybe one time I'll join you on the call.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think that's good for this episode. And we will do one again, and we'll be deciding, I guess, over email what that topic will be, like the specific topic of the next episode. So, yeah, so that's it. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
See you next time.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.